Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight as we are talking about how to identify if you are in a toxic relationship. How to identify if you are in a toxic relationship. Go ahead and hit that like button and share this video so that others on your timeline can join in with us as well. And while you're doing that, these Facebook Lives are just a spin-off my book, Recreating a Better Me. If you haven't already got your copy, you can get that copy at Amazon.com. It's available on 3 formats. It's available on Kindle, audio, and paperback. So feel free to go ahead and check that out as well. As always, I appreciate you sacrificing your time to be here with me tonight. And throughout your day, I hope that you're using this time wisely to learn. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of wealth of knowledge flowing through and streaming through our social media devices throughout the day. I'm just delighted that you take out the time to join me here in the late evenings and to sharing with me, because I really enjoy having this conversation with you. So how to identify if you are in a toxic relationship. While I'm going through these identifiers, let's not neglect that we could possess some of these characteristics as well. A lot of times it's like I said before, it's easy to see these characteristics in other people, but we have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we could be the one with toxic characteristics. So as we go through these identifiers, please make sure that you consider yourself as well, because that's what we're working with. We're working with us. We're working on trying to help ourselves be the best that we can be. It's not about seeing it in someone else and trying to make those changes in them. We know that we are the common denominator in any relationship that we see. All right, number 1, you fight almost daily. This can be a verbal fight. It could be a physical fight. It could just be an ongoing, nagging situation. If you're in a relationship with somebody and every day you're fighting over the toothpaste, over the clothes on the floor, over the rings in the tub, whatever, then that's a sign that you're probably in a toxic situation. Who wants to be in a relationship with someone and you're always fighting? You can be miserable by yourself. So to be in a situation to where nothing is right and you can always find something to fight about, any little thing, you're always with your feelings hurt and looking for a reason to disagree, that is a toxic situation, guys. It's not healthy. Because what happens when you fight? When you fight, if it's physical, you have the physical scars that show up. If it's emotionally or mental, you have the mental scars, which we know takes more time to heal than the physical does. And so it's just an ongoing threat to our self-confidence, to our self-worth, to our self-value. So to be in a situation to where there's constant fighting and nagging going on, that's a number 1 sign that you're probably in a toxic relationship. Thank you guys for joining me. I see some of you just logging on. Today we're talking about how to identify if you're in a toxic relationship. Number 2, someone who passes the blame, or someone always saying, you made me do it. You made me feel such a way. Any mature person can assume responsibility for themselves. There are choices that we make, and for every choice we make, there's a consequence. So for some grown person who says that they love you and won't assume responsibility for their own actions, that relationship is probably toxic. No one can make me do anything. I choose to do the things that I do. No one can make me say anything. I have enough self-control to control what I say, control my actions. So no one can put me in a situation like that. When you have someone passing the blame, that's a sign to say, on any given day, I can do what I want because you made me do it, or you made me say that. I didn't mean it, you did. So for someone who refuses to take responsibility, it's probably a toxic person. They're probably toxic. And you may be that someone in the relationship that does that. So now that you're aware, then you'll go and make the necessary changes, because you realize no one makes us do anything. We make the choice. There's nothing that my spouse can do that can make me do anything. I make the choice, a conscious choice, a mature choice in the relationship, how to respond and in which way that I will. He can do nothing to make me otherwise. So anyone who passes the blame. Number 3, having a family history of dysfunction or of the types of behavior that they're showing, a family history. Because what I've learned, and it's like I said in videos past, is that as young children, we learn most from our families. We learn it, we take on those behaviors, and in our minds, it's what we do. This is how people act. This is what people do in relationships. And I've actually had people tell me, young ladies tell me, that were in abusive relationships, tell me that it was okay that they were in abusive relationships, and it was okay that the kids were in the room when those behaviors were displayed. And I disagree. But their perception of what's okay for them, because they have had a cycle and a family history of that toxic behavior, to them it was okay. So it's not up to me to correct that or to judge in any way, but I'm here to let you know tonight that just because you have a family history of behaving a certain way does not make it okay, because you drag that same dysfunction into your relationships when you fail to deal with that dysfunctional behavior. Go ahead and like and share this video tonight. I appreciate you logging in and joining in with me tonight as I'm going over how to identify if you are in a toxic relationship. And like I said in the beginning, don't disqualify yourself, because sometimes the toxicity comes from us. We're not here to change anybody. We're just here to make you aware of behaviors that result in toxic behaviors. Some people try to function in their dysfunction, and what better way to learn what that dysfunction is and try to overcome it so that we can have better relationships and better lives. Number 4, someone who automatically flocks to drama. Just, you ever seen it, somebody that's dramatic all the time over everything? Make a big deal out of everything? You're probably in a toxic relationship if you have a mate that shows these kind of behaviors. Just dramatic, drama, everything. Just make a big deal. You bring the man the plate, the meat is burnt a little bit, and he just acts like it's just the end of the world. I've seen some crazy stuff, guys. Just little things. I asked you to do something and you didn't do it just the way that I wanted you to do it, or maybe not in the time frame I wanted you to do it, and they just blow up. You come in from work and you don't know what you're getting that day. You don't know, you may be getting a skillet upside your head. You may be getting a rose in your hand. I mean, you just never know. Somebody who just feeds off of drama, that's probably a toxic mate. You're probably in a toxic situation. Number 5, compulsive lying and deceit. Now, when you have a toxic person, you have to understand that these are their behaviors. Behaviors form habits. So this is something that, they didn't make a mistake one time and apologize and made those corrections. This is ongoing. Ongoing lying and deceit. Whatever you come up with or confront them with, they got a lie for that. And they got another lie to cover that. Just deceitful and untrustworthy. That's toxic. Because for each lie or deceitful action that someone displays to you, it takes 16 more positive interactions to undo that one. And so if you're constantly being lied to and being deceived, it begins to take a toll on your mental health. And if you're not in a good space, your relationship is not going to be in a good space. Number 6, someone who likes to hold things over your head as a way of control. And I can't stand these kind of people. These kind of people here just don't fit well with my personality. That's someone that, a mate that does something nice for you, and then they feel like because they done something nice for you, that you ought to forgive the crap that they bring to the table. No. Nice deeds are a part of establishing a relationship with someone. That doesn't mean that I have to take the negativity or the drama or the lies that you want to bring to the relationship. It doesn't mean that. So you mean to tell me that you could go out and sleep around and party and say harsh words to me, someone who you supposedly love, and just because you do a good deed for me, when you get caught, that I'm supposed to put up with that? No. So they're probably toxic. If you have to manipulate and hold that over my head, then we're probably not in a good space. So it's probably not a very healthy relationship. And remember, guys, it's probably a family history of that. They probably seen it. They probably mastered this craft of, well, I can do what I want and then shower them with these gifts for a little while and hold it over the head. Well, you remember when I done that. So it's just an ongoing cycle. So if you identify with some of these behaviors that I've shared with you so far, go ahead and hit that like button. And don't forget to share this video so that others on your timeline can enjoy it as well. I appreciate you guys sacrificing your time to be here with me tonight. I do enjoy having these conversations with you guys. Number 7, their happiness is dictated or determined by you. There's nothing more undesirable than the person I'm in a relationship with. Their happiness is dictated by me, what I do or what I don't do. I should not have that kind of control over anyone. You should do what it takes so that you're happy. Your happiness shouldn't be dictated by your mate. Well, if they just do that, I'll be so happy. If they just do this, I'll be so happy. No, you have to find within yourself what it is that creates that happiness for you. If it's dictated by somebody else, then they control your life. And who wants to be controlled? Our Creator Himself does not control us. Remember I said the only will stronger than God's will for our life is our own will? He give us a mind for a purpose. So why give another human that much control or allow them to have that much more control over us, that our happiness is dictated by what they do and don't do? That's not a way to live. Actually, I think that could probably be the most miserable way to live. If I depend on my spouse for my happiness, I probably wouldn't be a very happy woman today. You have to be around me 24 hours a day for me to feel self-sufficient or to feel some kind of self-worth. There's something wrong with that, guys. We should have enough self-confidence and self-worth within ourselves that even when our relationship is having one of those least days, one of the worst days, and we're in some of the worst circumstances, I should still be able to find some kind of stability or common ground. I should still be able to make some kind of decision. So our happiness shouldn't be dictated by what someone else does or doesn't do. So if you're in a situation to where your happiness is dictated by what your spouse does or what your girlfriend does or whatever the situation is, you're probably in a toxic situation. Number 8, fail to respect boundaries. And I know that some of these are overlapping from some of the earlier videos, but boundaries and respect go a long ways. We can almost overcome any situation that comes our way if we can respect those boundaries. And guys, let me just say this. Stepping outside of your relationship and pursuing other relationships on top of other relationships on top of other relationships, you've dropped the ball. If you put all that effort that you're putting into those outside relationships, put all that effort into that relationship that you've already established, you could probably make a pretty doggone good relationship. I can almost bet you. Because if you're in a relationship with somebody, if they're there with you, there's probably a good chance that you can work that out. But you can't work that out moving the boundaries when it's convenient for you. And then want to pull the boundaries back in when it's not. It just doesn't work that way. 9 times out of 10, if you're in a relationship and you're not respecting that boundary, the other person knows it anyway. They probably know it. And if you're a woman looking tonight, you can probably agree with me that, yeah, you're pretty much aware when those boundaries aren't respected. So if you fail to respect those boundaries and you're just showing behaviors all over the place, failing to respect your mate, you're probably in a toxic situation. It's most likely you're in a toxic situation. Even with friendships, you're sharing things with your closest friends and they disrespect the boundaries by going and telling and conniving behind your back and things like that. When you don't respect boundaries, that's a toxic situation. And I tell you what, that there failing to respect the boundaries, that just brings me back to that Jasmine Sullivan song that I've been singing for the last 2 days, Bust the Windows Out Your Car. Because that's where it all takes me back to. Because when you're in a situation to where these characteristics show up, it just takes your whole mental state and it just shifts everything around and it sets you back to win. So you want to make sure that all else, you respect boundaries. And if you're with somebody that cannot respect boundaries, and I mean healthy boundaries, guys, boundaries, they stretch every now and then and adjust every now and then, but they don't stretch and adjust to the point to where it's good for you and not for me. You see what I'm saying? We don't want to be in situations to where not only that, but now you're putting our health in danger. And now you're putting our relationship in danger and you're putting it out there for the public display to be criticized and looked down upon and to be judged. You don't want to be in a situation like that. And oftentimes, that's where failure to respect those boundaries are so harmful to us. We can almost deal with everything else, but I think for me that's just a deal breaker. When you put it out there for public display, you're so loose and disrespectful to the boundaries that we've established, and now you have me as a public I don't even have words for it. You got me out there in the public's eye, and everyone's looking at me. It's something wrong with that, guys. That's a real toxic situation. And how do you have trust for someone that continues to break those barriers of respect, those boundaries, those covenants that we share between one another? So that, and you can still say that you love. You can still say that you love me. Who needs that kind of love? I can certainly do without it, because that not only could transcend to something emotional, but that could transcend into something more physical as well. And oftentimes it probably does. And we don't hear about it a lot of times until the situation has gotten so bad, or there's a domestic situation where someone eventually is harmed or even die from the situation. So fail to respect boundaries, guys. That is a very toxic situation on all areas of life, mentally, physically. It just transcends everything that I could think of right now. Number 9, if you are unhappy, if you are in a relationship right now as we speak and you are unhappy, that's a toxic situation. And it may not necessarily be anything that your mate is doing. It may just be something that you are unfulfilled within yourself. That's a toxic situation. Because if you're unhappy and your mate is happy or think they're happy, but you're unhappy, then you're not giving that relationship your best. It's not possible. You may be putting on a mask or pretending, but if you're unhappy, that's a toxic situation. Remember I said earlier, we can be unhappy by ourselves. You don't have to drag somebody else along with that. So if you're in a situation, if you're in a relationship right now, and just consider yourself, and you're unhappy, that's probably a sign that your relationship is toxic. No matter how much you pretend and think that it is okay and that it can survive. So what I would suggest at this point is that you evaluate or assess why you are unhappy. Why are you unhappy? What is going on that causes you to feel down and depressed and just have that lack of desire for life? Is it a medical condition? Is it just you don't feel like you're compatible? There's a reason behind you being unhappy or feeling unhappy. And I don't think it's fair to the other party that you're just in the relationship just because you're scared to be by yourself, or just that you're so miserable you don't know what to do, whatever. I don't think it's fair. I feel like if I'm unhappy in my relationship, it's not fair to my husband that I continue to drag him on and on and on in a relationship that is not fulfilling to me. And on the flip side of that, if he is unhappy, it's not fair to him or me that we continue to drag this thing out and out and out. I can't think of any reason, not kids, not benefits, not security, none of that is worth being in a relationship with someone and nobody's happy. I hope that you guys understand what I'm saying here. Life is too short. And our Creator give us life, and He wants us to enjoy this life and an abundance of life. And if we're in a situation to where we're not enjoying life and that we can't find a bit of happiness, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. And I can't think of anybody, not my spouse, not my children, not my family, not my friends. I can't think of anybody worth me living this life in hell and being unhappy and then dying and going to hell. It's just not worth it to me, guys. I'm sorry. And maybe sometimes you say, well, we've invested 20 years. We've invested 30 years, 40 years. Well, I might have invested that many years being unhappy, but I can almost guarantee you I won't invest another 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 40 years being unhappy. I can almost guarantee you that. It's just not worth it. If the Creator says for us to have life and life more abundantly, I'm certainly not going to let man help me miss my mark. I can promise you that. I'll be miserable by myself. You will not have us looking at each other, frowning it up at each other every time we turn around. That just won't happen, guys. I'm sorry. Life is too short. Hear me when I say this, ladies, because we're the ones that try to hang on and prove a point. Hear me when I say life is too short. And we see that more and more every day to be unhappy, especially for you guys that have not already committed yourselves through marriage. Yeah, you might have wasted 10 or 15 years. You might be scared, but now's the day to plan your escape. Do you hear me? And find your happiness wherever it is. Not in no toxic relationship, one that drags you down, drags your self-worth down, and then you can't live out your purpose. You can't live out your purpose being unhappy, looking over your shoulder, being blamed for everything, letting your self-esteem take a blow every time you breathe a breath. There's something wrong with that. We're talking tonight about how to identify if you are in toxic relationships. Remember, guys, that we're not just always looking at the other party. Oftentimes, we can be the ones that are toxic. We can have characteristics that are toxic for our relationships. And that's what it's all about, helping ourselves to be better so that when we're better, our relationships are better. And I do appreciate you guys taking out your time to join me tonight. Please make sure that you like and share this video so that others on your timeline can enjoy our conversation as well. Also, if you have comments, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section, and I'll be glad to address that with you guys. We're up to number 10. We're up to number 10, criticism and harsh communication. Criticism and harsh communication. And we can often overlook this, and oftentimes we do, because sometimes we are the ones criticizing, looking at everything with a critical eye, not necessarily saying words that are positive and uplifting. Because sometimes we know that when we're in relationships, people can do stuff that would work our nerves so bad that we say the first thing that comes to our mind. So we know that criticism and harsh communication can show up in relationships, but there should be, the positive should outweigh the negative. There should be some kind of balance somewhere. And for both of us to be critical and harsh toward one another, that just doubles the toxicity within the relationship. There should be something that, regardless of whatever's going on in the relationship or around us, that I should be able to find something positive to say and to interact with my spouse or with my children or with my family and friends. Because remember, we form relationships in everything. I'm forming a relationship with you. with you just being here with me in the evenings and joining in this conversation. We're forming relationships. There ought to be something in my communication with you and with your feedback with me that is positive and uplifting. And if there is a situation to where criticism and harsh words are going forth, somebody has to be the one to try to find a positive in that and try to offset some of that drama. It goes back to some of the earlier characteristics that I mentioned. You see how it just cycles and how the toxic level of our relationships can just go up and down, up and down, up and down. You don't have to agree with everything that I'm saying here tonight. These are my opinions. It's the perception I get from the research that I've done. It's from my life experiences and my belief, my perceptions. You don't have to agree, but can we agree to disagree? That no, I don't agree with you on that, or yeah, I agree with you on that, but I also think this, and that's okay. That's what relationships do. Just because we disagree or don't like something that someone does doesn't mean that we have to fall out and criticize and downgrade each other and cuss each other out and all that. That's toxic. And I do realize that prior to these 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, when I started just being more aware of my behaviors, I realized just how toxic I was in our relationship. Maybe not all things, but in some things, especially the words that I would speak. The words I would speak could be so harsh sometimes that it could just, you probably felt better if I had a knife and just cut you. Words hurt, guys. And if we can't come together and respect one another and try to find a positive light into our relationships, what's the use? What if the only thing that was keeping your relationship from being so much better was a kind word every now and then? What if? What if the only thing that was keeping your relationship from going to the next level was to just say, say we knew you've been out drunk and partying all night. What if we just say, honey, I'm glad you're home. Honey, I'm glad you made it home safe. What if that was all it took to change behavior or to make a difference within our homes or our relationships? What if all it took was telling that child, baby, I'm proud of you. I know that you've hit some obstacles along the way and that you've been in some situations that has really tried to stop you and block you, and I see your anger and frustration, but baby, I just want you to know I'm proud of you. What if that's all it took to change the whole dynamics of your relationship? But yet it's so much easier to criticize and to speak harm and harsh words and negativity that sometimes we're the one that makes things as bad as they are. If we could just make minor adjustments, if that relationship is worth having and we could just make those minor adjustments, we could change the whole dynamics of our relationship. Now, I would suggest if you're in a relationship and 1 through 10 is all in your relationship, that you do some serious reevaluation because you're in a toxic situation, guys. But if you just see 1 or 2 things, 3 things on the list, yeah, It's worth sticking out. It's worth redoing. But if you find yourself on the flip side of these 10 characteristics, if you see yourself, please go back to the video that we done on the mindset. I think it was a 3-part series that we done on the mindset. Go back and do the work. Or if you have a situation to where you may need a little more help dealing with these situations and the mindset and the way it works, you can also get my book. My book is Recreating a Better Me. You can find that on Amazon. It's available to come straight to your Kindle. It's also available on Audible, so where it plays audio for you, and it's also available in paperback. If you get the paperback and you do the work, ask yourself those questions, I promise you it'll be a good resource and a help to you. I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I haven't decided if I'm going to do another video on relationships for tomorrow to finish out our week or to move on. But look for my post tomorrow, sometime around the noon hour, that tells you the direction that we're going to be going from here. I appreciate you guys taking out time to join me tonight. Don't forget, if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. I'll be glad to address any questions that you have tonight. Also, like and share this video so that others can share it on your timeline, can view it on your timeline. Also, you can find these videos and audio on demand. Audio can be found on SoundCloud at Ann Bray Smith, and on YouTube on CWF Organization YouTube page. All right, guys, have a good night.